The auction block the wind carried the scent of salt and spice across Meridian Ridge as Torin Wade made his way through the crowded market square. The colony's limestone terraces gleamed under the twin suns, echoing of wares brought from across the quadrant. Torin hadn't planned to stop at the penalty platform. As harbor inspector, he preferred following rules rather than witnessing their enforcement. But the flash of teal skin against the white stone caught his eye. A woman stood with her chin raised, despite the ceremonial restraints around her wrists. Her skin shifted between shades of teal and azure in the sunlight, and copper-red braids fell across her shoulders. Her eyes, fierce amber pools, scanned the crowd with undisguised contempt. "Unregistered alien, disruption charge," announced the clerk. "To credit penalty posting required." The crowd murmured. 2 credits was nothing the equivalent of a cheap meal yet. No one stepped forward. Torin felt something twist in his chest. 6 months on Meridian had taught him how quickly the colony's veneer of civility could crack, revealing the cruelty beneath. Before he could reconsider, his boots carried him forward. "2 credits," he said, placing the metal tokens in the collection bowl. The clerk looked surprised but recorded the payment. Torin stepped toward the platform and carefully removed the ceremonial bindings from the woman's wrists. "You can step down now," he said quietly. Her amber eyes narrowed. "You'll regret it." "I won't listen to you," Torin replied simply. "I don't need you to." Confusion flickered across her features as she followed him through the dispersing crowd. Vendors whispered as they passed. Someone muttered, "2 credit trouble." The clerk called after them. "Responsibility period begins now." 7 days. They walked in tense silence until reaching a quieter terrace overlooking the harbor. Torin unlocked a small door marked with an inspection seal. "This loft is where I work," he explained. "It's dry, secure, and private." "I didn't ask for lodging," she said, arms crossed defensively. "You don't have to stay," Torin replied, stepping inside without blocking the doorway. But night temperatures dropped dangerously low on the ridge. She hesitated, scanning the terrace before following him inside. The small room contained only the essentials of bedroll: storage crates, a lamp, and a narrow window. "You can lock the door from inside," Torin said. "I won't enter without permission." "You're assuming I'll stay," she challenged. "I'm preparing in case you do." "If you leave, you leave." Her fingers tightened around the edge of her torn shawl. "I'm not yours." "I know," he said simply. "The penalty system doesn't make people belong to each other. It just forces us to be civil for 7 days." She studied him with unreadable eyes before asking, "Why did you help me?" Torin considered his words carefully. "Because what happened out there was wrong. You said no to someone. That should have been enough." Outside, the market bells chimed the hour change. Inside, something shifted. Not trust. Not yet, but a fragile beginning. "My name is Rona," she finally said. "Torin," he replied. "Harbor Inspector." Reluctant alliance dawn filtered through the window as Rona awoke, momentarily disoriented by the unfamiliar ceiling. She sat up cautiously, finding Torin already awake, lacing his boots by the door. "You sleep light?" she observed.
"Habit,"
he replied. "Are you hungry?" She didn't answer, but her eyes flicked toward the door. "I'm heading to the terrace kitchen," Torin said, rising. "You can join me or stay. If you stay, lock the door. You're not worried I'll disappear?" Rona challenged. "You're free too," he said simply. "But you didn't leave last night." The terrace kitchen hummed with early workers' quiet conversations. Steam rose from bowls of purple porridge and sizzling meat. Torin paid for 2 meals and set one before Rona at a corner table. She ate cautiously, eyes constantly scanning entrances. "Why take responsibility for someone you don't know?" she finally asked. "Because I've seen what happens when no one steps in," Torin answered, his voice carrying memories he didn't elaborate on. A clerk approached their table with a stern expression. "Your responsibility period expires in 6 days. Any disturbance involving the alien places both of you under review?" Rona's grip tightened on her spoon. Torin responded calmly. "Then ensure your colleagues avoid provoking one." The clerk departed with visible displeasure. "I don't want to be your burden," Rona said once they were alone. "You're not," Torrin replied. "But you're in a system designed to shame you into silence. I'd rather help you find footing so you can handle it on your terms." After breakfast, Torrin led her toward the harbor. "I need to inspect the tide rails. Come if you want to understand how the ridge works." The harbor sprawled below them, cargo platforms, pulley systems, and workers preparing for the day's shipments. Torrin inspected methodically, checking ropes and rails with practiced efficiency. "You inspect wood for a living?" Rona asked, half mocking. "I inspect anything people rely on to stay alive," he corrected. "Most days, no one notices. Until something fails and lives are lost." Watching his careful work, Rona recognized a man who cared about things others overlooked. The realization unsettled her. Later, Torrin guided her to the labor registration office. "If you want dock work after this, you need your name in the ledger." Rona hesitated. Registration meant visibility, something she'd been avoiding. "If you don't want to use your full name, we can register an alias," Torrin offered. "It's allowed for independent laborers." "Why would you suggest that?" she asked, surprised. "It's common for people starting over," he said. "Names carry baggage. You choose what you keep." Inside, Rona registered simply as Rona, listing skills in cargo handling and rope work. The clerk provided her identification chip, her first official documentation on Meridian. "That entry means you can earn your own credits again," Torrin explained as they left. "If they hire," she countered. "They will," he said confidently. "Dock crews need strength and quick thinking. You have both." Back at the loft, Torrin set a small bundle on the crate thread, cloth strips for makeshift gloves, and dried fruit. "Planning for me again?" Rona asked. You leave stronger," he replied. "Not hungry and alone." Rona fingered the items thoughtfully. For the first time since arriving on Meridian, tomorrow didn't feel like a threat but a possibility. "When tomorrow comes," she said finally, "don't speak for me. I need them to see me." "They will." Rising tensions, Rona's first day at the docks began with wary glances from the crew overseer. Her teal skin marked her as different, but her strength silenced initial doubts. She lifted crates that took 2 humans to manage, tied knots that held against the harsh coastal winds. "Not bad for a ridge walker," grunted the dock supervisor, a weathered woman named Jessa. "Most newcomers quit by midday." Rona didn't respond except to take the next load. Her muscles burned pleasantly from honest work. It's different from the pain of captivity she'd known before. From the upper inspection platform, Torrin watched discreetly. When their eyes briefly met, he nodded once, acknowledgement without interference, exactly as she'd asked. By afternoon, Rona had earned her first independent credits. The weight of the payment chip felt like freedom in her palm. Walking back through the East Arcade, she noticed a merchant watching her, the same one whose harassment had led to her penalty display. His eyes narrowed with recognition. "Shouldn't you be on a leash?" he called as she passed. "Inspector's pet now." Rona's hands clenched. Before she could respond, another dock worker stepped between them. "Back off, Dren," the worker warned. "She's harbor crew now. Take your grievance to management." Will aggressor are living with their war way there war with record to go. Why do I have But his gaze promised future trouble. That evening in the loft, Rona examined her raw palms while Torrin prepared a simple meal of fish stew. "I saw Merchant Dren speaking to you," he said carefully. He's influential with the colony council. He wanted to put restraint cuffs on me for product display, Rona explained, anger edging her voice. When I refused, he claimed disruption. Torin set a bowl before her. The Ridge operates on unwritten rules as much as official ones. Learning them keeps you from being targeted. Teach me, she said simply. Over the meal, Torin explained Meridian's social codes, how eye contact duration signaled status, how silence was valued over volume, how even walking paths followed hierarchy. The penalty system wasn't created by humans, he noted. This colony adopted it from the original inhabitants. Duh. Rona absorbed the information, mentally mapping the invisible boundaries she'd been unknowingly crossing. Later, preparing for sleep, she noticed Torin's attention linger on her before he quickly looked away. What? She demanded. Nothing, he said, then reconsidered. You handled yourself well today. The crew respects competence. Something warm and unfamiliar bloomed in her chest. Thank you, she said, the words feeling strange on her tongue. That night, customary distance between their sleeping areas seemed smaller somehow. In the following days, their routine settled. Rona worked the docks while Torin conducted inspections. Evenings brought shared meals and conversations that gradually extended beyond survival strategies. Torin asked on the fourth night. Rona stiffened. Does it matter? No, he said. But I'd like to know you, not just help you. A simple honesty caught her off guard. Later, watching him mend his torn inspection jacket, she made a decision. That was cargo, she said quietly. Classified as exotic labor on transport manifests, the ship that brought me had engine trouble and docked for repairs. During maintenance, I escaped. Torin's hands stilled. Who owned the transport? Syndicate traders. Galmin licenses, Outer Rim operations. His expression darkened. They're still docked at the South Harbor. I know, she whispered. Their departure was delayed for inspection violations. Their eyes met in shared understanding. 3 more days until their responsibility period ended. 3 days until the traders could depart with their human-sanctioned cargo. 3 days to decide what came next. Breaking point, the southern harbor gleamed like polished bone under Meridian's moons. Trader vessels dwarfed local fishing boats, their hulls scarred from countless journeys through unregulated space. The largest bore the insignia Rona had learned to fear, an eclipse symbol of the syndicate. That's the one, she whispered to Torin as they observed from the ridge path. The sundered light. 6 days had passed since the auction block. Tomorrow, their responsibility period would end, and with it, the thin protection their connection provided. The captain filed departure clearance for tomorrow evening, Torin said, checking his inspector's tablet. They've addressed most violations except hull integrity certification. Rona's amber eyes hardened. There are others aboard. Not just cargo people, like me. Torin nodded grimly. I suspected as much. Colony administration turns a blind eye to syndicate operations. Trade revenues outweigh moral concerns. Then why help me? Rona asked, turning to face him fully. Torin met her gaze, something unspoken passing between them. Because you looked at me like a person should look at another person with dignity, not submission? Before she could respond, a harsh voice cut through the evening air. Property recovery. A broad-shouldered man approached, flanked by 2 security officers bearing colony insignia. Inspector Wade, you're harboring stolen merchandise. Rona stiffened, her copper braids catching the moonlight as she turned. Overseer Crash, she breathed, fear and rage mingling in her voice. Tehran stepped slightly forward, not blocking her, but present. This woman is registered in the colony labor system. She has documentation. Crash sneered. Temporary work passes don't override ownership claims. The syndicate has filed formal paperwork. Your responsibility period ends tomorrow. And she returns to inventory. I am not inventory, Rona growled. Show me the documentation, Tehran demanded, inspector's authority evident in his tone. One officer produced a tablet with colony-sealed transfer orders. Torin studied it carefully, expression unreadable. These appear legitimate, he conceded, and Rona felt her heart constrict painfully. Then, almost imperceptibly. Torin's eyes flicked toward the harbor inspection station. However, all transfer orders require safety verification before execution, especially involving sentient cargo. Crash's face darkened. This delay is unnecessary. It's regulation, Torin countered. We can process the verification at the station now. The standoff stretched until Crash finally nodded. Fine, but she comes with us. Of course, Torin agreed to easily. As her registered responsible party for one more day, I'll accompany you. As they walked toward the inspection station, Torin's hand brushed Roneza. Deliberate touch conveying a message. Trust me, inside the station, while Crash argued with the night clerk. Torin quietly activated the emergency inspection protocol on the main terminal. Alarms blared across the harbor as all vessels were suddenly locked down for critical safety verification. In the ensuing chaos, Torin pulled Rona through a maintenance corridor. This leads to the upper terraces. We have minutes before they override the lockdown. You'll be fired, Rona protested as they ran. Worse. Worth it, Torin replied, not slowing. I've sent documentation to colonial authorities beyond Meridian. The Syndicate's operations won't remain hidden. Reaching the loft, they gathered essentials quickly. Outside, commotion spread through the ridge as traders and officials clashed over the unexpected inspection. Between breaths, Torin took Rona's hand. I have a plan, but you must choose. This isn't my decision to make. Their eyes met in the dim light, something electric passing between them. Tell me, she said. New beginnings. The morning light painted Rona's teal skin with golden hues as she stood at the edge of the northern dock. Behind her, Meridian Ridge rose in limestone tiers, the only home she'd known on this planet. Before her stretched the open sea, and beyond that, freedom. The small vessel bobbed gently. Against the pier, a decommissioned harbor patrol boat. Turan had certified for release months ago, but never recorded in the final logs. Stocked for 2 weeks' journey, he explained, securing the last of their provisions. The navigation system will reach New Haven Colony. They don't recognize Syndicate claims. Rona ran her fingers along the boat's weathered hull. You're giving up everything.
Ow.
Not everything, Torin replied, his eyes meeting hers. The ridge taught me that sometimes rules protect injustice instead of preventing it. The harbor alarm sounded in the distance, the search expanding from the southern docks. Their time was running short. We should go, Rona said, but made no move toward the vessel. Torin hesitated, studying her face. You don't have to come with me. The boat is yours either way. I can create a diversion while you depart. Why would you do that? She asked, stepping closer. Because choice matters, he answered simply. I bought your freedom, not you. Rona placed her hand against his chest, feeling his heartbeat beneath her palm. In my culture, we believe souls recognize each other across lifetimes. I didn't understand why I followed you that first day. Torin covered her hand with his. And now? Now I know, she whispered. The kiss was gentle, a question rather than a demand. When they parted, both were breathing differently. Come with me, Rona said. Not as my rescuer or protector, as my equal. Torin's smile reached his eyes. I'd follow you across the quadrant. They boarded together as shouts echoed from the upper terraces. Torin released the mooring lines while Rona activated the engines with unexpected familiarity. You know how to pilot? He asked, surprised. I wasn't always cargo, she replied with a hint of mischief. Before capture, I navigated rim transports. As Meridian Ridge receded behind them, Rona felt the weight of servitude slipping away with each nautical mile. Her copper braids danced in the sea wind, and for the first time in years, she laughed freely in the cabin below. Their meager possessions mingled her identification chip beside his inspector's badge. Both symbols of identities now shed. That evening, as twin moons rose over the endless ocean, Torin and Rona stood together at the helm. His arm rested lightly around her waist, neither restraining nor possessing, simply connecting. What will we be at New Haven? She asked. Whatever we choose, he answered. Ship mechanics, perhaps, or traders of our own. Partners, Rona decided, leaning into his warmth. Partners Torin agreed. Behind them, only open water marked their passage, no rules. No ownership, no fixed path. Ahead lay uncertainty, but they faced it together. Two people who had chosen each other when all systems had tried to separate them. The stars emerged overhead, bearing witness to their journey not as captor and captive, savior and saved, but as two souls who had recognized something in each other worth risking everything to preserve.